Welcome to module number 3. In this module, we will be focusing on the role of marketing in strategic planning. As you know, in businesses, strategic planning is very important, which is about the future of the organization. Marketing as an important business function has an integral role in the strategic planning process. In this module, we will focus on how companies use marketing or information from marketing function in their strategic planning process. Before we go into understanding the role of marketing into the strategic planning process, we need to focus on what is a high performance business. Because if a business is high performance, only then each of their business function has an important role in their strategic planning. To understand high performing business, we need to start with a question: what is the biggest challenge that is faced by the organizations today or by the hospitality companies? If you think about hospitality companies, they are in a unique situation. The markets are highly saturated, whether it's food and beverage organizations, whether it's lodging establishments. There's a lot of options available. Consumers have too much to choose from. There's a lot of competition. In this situation, the biggest challenge for companies become to build and maintain profitable businesses. That's the biggest situation. That's the biggest challenge. According to some statistics, 70% of the businesses in hospitality organizations or hospitality industry fail within the first year of their operation. Now, why does this happen? Of course, there's a lot of reasons, but some of the biggest reasons are volatile environment, which means the environment is constantly changing when it comes to marketing environment in hospitality industry. The second biggest reason for this type of challenge is the changing market segments. The market is constantly changing. We have more generations, we have more information available, people's buying decisions are changing very quickly, and the rate of innovation is making things even worse. For high performance business, we have a model called a 4-factor model of high performance business. In this model, we have 4 different categories. Category number 1 is the stakeholders. Now, in business management, understanding stakeholders is an important consideration. Stakeholders are all those parties that have positive or negative stake in the organization. Now, some of them are inside the organization, which include employees, customers, and stockholders who are the owners of the company. And then we also have stakeholders outside the organization, which includes the suppliers to the organization, as well as the communities around the organization. It's important to understand what each of these stakeholders require, what are their stakes, what can challenge them, and how to fulfill their needs and wants. Here is an example of Hilton. Hilton has this interesting Hilton value chain. If you look at the Hilton value chain, everything revolves around one square that's in the middle. And if you look at the one in the middle, it's called Hilton Pride. If you look, there are 5 bullet points, and each bullet point signifies one of the 5 stakeholders that I just mentioned earlier. The second factor in a high performance business model is called the process. Now, of course, for a company or for an organization to operate, processes are important. There's a lot of stuff that happens under the processes. Now, when we dissect an organization based on their processes, we get 2 types of organizations. The first type of organization is called the process-based organization. The second type is called department-based organization. For department-based organizations, we have organizations that have traditional departments, something like finance, marketing, human resource management, research and development. In this one, there are silos between these departments. There are unseen walls. Things become slower as they go from department to department. The other type of organization is called process-based organization. These organizations do have typical departments, but the way they solve their problems is based on the process. You may have heard of terminologies like one-window operation. You may have heard of technologies like ghost kitchens. These type of terminologies or these type of things signify process-based organizations where everything is seen as a process and different departments are there to facilitate how to solve the problems that arise when delivering the processes. The third factor in the high performance business model is the resources. Now, of course, for any business to operate, we need resources. These resources are needed to carry out different processes. These resources include personnel, human resources, materials like raw materials, machines, and information. In many cases, companies do operate on information. A very good example of this would be Google. Google offers information. In hospitality and tourism industry, we have a company called STR, Smith Travel Research. They provide reports to all the hotels around the world. And all they provide is information, reports, different type of reports, which are integral for hotels to run their daily operations. When it comes to resources, the main question about resources is, should companies own the resource or should they outsource? Of course, there's a cost-benefit analysis there. Is it important? Is it worth to own the resource, or is it worth to outsource it on a lower cost? The fourth factor in the four-factor business model is the organization itself, about the structure of the organization, about the policies of the organization, about the culture of the organization. Now, in some cases, companies have linear structures. In some cases, companies have very horizontal structure. Policies, are they very rigid? Are they very flexible? What about the culture? We did talk about the service culture. So thinking about all these, then organizations can be high performance or low performance. Now remember that whenever a company merge with another company, or whether it's acquired by another company, all these four factors would change. It is also possible if the environment has major changes. For instance, we went through COVID-19, which has changed a lot of things for different organizations. So if there's changes in environment, or if there's a merger or acquisition, that would change how that four-factor model works for high-performance businesses. So for the role of marketing and strategic planning, we need to understand the steps that are in the strategic planning. Again, this is a four-step model. Again, the three steps are integral in order to reach to the fourth step. Now, strategic planning is a process where we try to understand the strategic fit. What is the fit between the organization's goal and the capabilities and the market needs and wants and opportunities? That's what the strategic planning is all about. Now, when the companies get into strategic planning, they set the course for the future of the organization or the overall planning for the organization. The first step in strategic planning is defining the corporate mission. Now, what is a mission? Mission is a statement. The mission statement is a statement that shows the reason for existence of the company. It is something that shows why the companies exist. Now, for many companies, it is very simple. They exist to achieve something basic, like a hotel exists there to provide a one-night stay for their customers. A restaurant exists to provide food to people who are hungry. Now, mission statement is a statement of organization's purpose. It shows what the organization wants to achieve. How do we develop mission statement? So mission statement, in order to develop a mission statement, companies need to think about what is our business. They need to think about who are our customers. They also need to think about what is valuable for our customers and what should our business be doing to deliver that value to their customers. Now, when it comes to mission statements, again, there are two types. Some types focus on the company's orientation or focus on the company's product. Some of them focus on the customers. Now, here's a very good example. There are mission statements from two different theme parks. So mission statement number one is very simple. It says we run theme parks. Statement number two says we create fantasies that enable the family to have a great time together and produce memories that will last a lifetime. Now, both of them are mission statements for two theme parks. And there's nothing wrong with both of them. But the first one focuses on the product itself. We run theme parks. The second one focuses on customers. What do they achieve when they get to this theme park? So both of them are very good examples of what a mission statement that focuses on the company or the product looks like versus another one that focuses on the customer orientation. A good example here would be to quote Ritz-Carlton. Ritz-Carlton has the mission, and the mission goes like, the Ritz-Carlton experience enlivens the senses, instills well-being, and fulfills even the unexpressed wishes and needs of our guests. That's a lot to achieve. But again, remember that mission statement is there to show the existence of the business. It needs to be broader, it needs to be grand, it needs to be something that the employees can get behind. Now, of course, when you make your objectives, those objectives need to be set in order to achieve that mission. If your mission is too narrow or too easy to achieve, then you would have a hard time to rally your employees behind you to achieve that mission. Now here with Ritz-Carlton, we create objectives that are in line with that mission. And the objective would be build profitable customer relationships by providing genuine care and comfort for our guests. Now the company, Ritz-Carlton, would create a lot of goals that would be focusing on these objectives. And then they'll have their departments, different departments or different functions to work towards achieving those goals in order to get the objective. For instance, the marketing department would then study customers and identify their needs. The sales would expand its presence in international markets. The human resources would select the good people, provide them effective training, and train them in order to provide better service to achieve or to fulfill needs and wants of their customers. When we talk about strategic planning, one important concept, and especially with hospitality and tourism, is strategic business units. Many companies, when they start focusing on one consumer group, they grow. And then they have to focus on something else. That's where we have strategic business units. Now, strategic business units is a collection or a single business that can be planned for separate operations as compared from the rest of the company. Pepsi is a very good example. So if you think about Pepsi, they started with beverages, but now they have a lot of other things like fast food, like snacks, potato chips, and stuff like that. Here on the screen, you will see an example of Darden Restaurants. Darden Restaurants as a whole is a big company. Under Darden Restaurant, we have companies like Red Lobster, Bahama Breeze, Longhorn Steakhouse, and a bunch of other things. So in strategic business unit, it's important to understand that each strategic business unit under an organization has its own mission, its own services, its own products. It has its own sets of competitors, and they have their own set of managers who are responsible for the planning and operations of that SBU. Now we will move to part 3 of this module. The part 3 focuses on Ansoff's growth strategies. Like I mentioned, when companies go to the point where they have to go into SBUs or strategic business units, it's important to then understand why did that happen. And to answer this, we have growth models or Ansoff's growth strategies. So Ansoff growth strategy is a matrix. Again, this matrix talks about what are the options for organizations to grow. Here on the matrix, we have 2 different axes. For a company to grow, you think about it. How can a company grow? They have only 2 options. Option number 1 is either they go to new markets. Option number 2 is either they come up with new products. So of course, when a matrix is created, we have a 2x2 matrix. Point number 1 is where we have existing markets, existing products. Or you can have existing markets and bring new products in that market. The third option is where you take your existing products to new markets. And the fourth one is where you take new products to new markets. Each of them are strategies to grow. Here on the screen, you will have an example of McDonald's. So let's say if McDonald's want to stay in the same market with the same product, what can they do? They can do happy hour. They can do competitive pricing. They can offer drive-through in order to sell more products to the same market. That is also growth, but it's called market penetration, penetrating in the market more and more. The second one is McDonald's take their menu items and go to different countries. That's called market development. So they take their product of burger, fast food, and go to new markets. That's market development. The third one is product development, which means that McDonald's come with new menu items. New menu items, new types of burgers, new types of things, new types of sauces. That's product development. The fourth one, which is very difficult to do, is called diversification, where you go to a new market with new sets of products. So for example, you may have seen in McDonald's something called McCafe. So McCafe was called diversification because it was a new market, coffee-loving people who never used to go to fast food restaurants with a new type of product. McDonald's also used to have a hotel in Switzerland, which was a flop, but there was a hotel. McDonald's also came with vending machines and things like that. So those are called diversification. Now, when we go one step ahead in diversification, we will see that in diversification, we manage risk versus the product. In some cases, diversification is very limited. In some cases, it's very big. In some cases, the diversification focuses on the product itself, which is, let's say, Hilton creates a vacation club or Disney Hotel creates a cruise ship where it's really focusing on the product itself. Then the other type of diversification is horizontal diversification. It is that you create new products which are not related to your existing products. Somewhat. So let's say that you go to a national park and you bought a souvenir. Now, souvenir has nothing to do with the national park. It does have a relation, but not directly. We call it horizontal diversification. The third one is conglomerate diversification. This one is where you are creating new products for non-related markets. So let's assume that McDonald's buy their cattle ranch from where they are buying their meat or something like that. Now, whenever companies decide to do diversification, they have a few different options. One is backward integration, which means they buy their suppliers. One is forward integration. That means they buy their business customers. And the third one is horizontal integration, which means they buy their competitors. Now let's turn our focus on part 4 of this module, which focuses on SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a simple strategic tool that allows a business to look at their present and future snapshot. Now, SWOT analysis is again a matrix that is divided into 2 different axes. Axis number 1 is whether there are opportunities or threats from external environment. Axis number 2 is whether there are strengths and weaknesses from internal environment. Now, the companies need to look at what are their strengths that are internal, they can change that, or what are their weaknesses that are also internal. But then the companies can also think about what are the opportunities in the external environment. Now, remember that opportunities cannot be controlled by the organization. They can capitalize on them, but they cannot create them. Same is the case with threats. Threats come from external environment. Organizations cannot focus on or cannot create these threats. They can avoid these threats, but they cannot create them. So now we will turn our sight into an interactive activity. In this activity, you will have a series of statements from different growth strategies that different companies are adopting, and you have to classify them into Ansoff's growth strategy. Tell me, what do you think about each of these statements, whether it's product development, whether it's market penetration, whether it's market development or diversification. And that's a wrap. So in this module, we did talk about what is the role of marketing in strategic planning. We talked about mission statements, vision statements. We also talked about growth strategies, strategic business units, and SWOT analysis.